We're going to talk about Season 5, Episode 8 of The Expanse, which is an amazing show, and if you don't watch it, you should. And we start off with Amos and Clarissa. Okay, yeah, so we started off with a scene of Amos and Clarissa peeing, okay, back to back. Believe it or not, out of all places, outside of a children's school. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, this scene is just about Clarissa. She gets over her withdrawal from the blockers, and she's feeling better. She's got more of an appetite. She's not, like, all weak and shit, you know, like she can fuck shit up again. What happens is they see a bunch of dead people all curled up. The conversation they have there is nice. They suggest that it might have been a kindness it's an old folks home actually. It's not a children's school. They talk about maybe that killing these old folks was an act of kindness, which is very possible. And then basically they start talking about they got to get off there. Clarissa says which I thought was a pretty neat scene, and it kind of rings back to COVID. Clarissa says, "Is this what life is like now?" And Amos responds something like, "For a while it is," you know. And it's like, I remember having that thought when coronavirus started, you know, like just kind of having to come to terms with the fact that like everything has changed, you know. It was crazy. I mean, remember when coronavirus started, nobody knew it was going to happen. Everything was strange. We didn't know how bad it was going to be. Turns out it's probably worse than we expected, but not knowing was crazy. So after Amos and Clarissa, we get the intro, and you know what they basically ultimately decide to do is go to the Baltimore to get reinforcements from the cartel, and at that point, you know, be able to kind of basically attack this like island in New Hampshire where there's a lot of ships that can get to the moon, like a bunch of like rich assholes ships, like in a hangar. And so they realize that like if they get some reinforcements from Baltimore, that they can go and get one of these rocket ships and go up to the moon. But unfortunately, Amos has to violate his promise to Eric, the one-armed guy from Baltimore, of not ever returning to Baltimore. But he's not worried about it because, like, there's no more society, there's no more civilization. So that's what their plan is. And then we go back to the Pella, where Marco is grieving over the loss of Sin, but he's also probably happy that Naomi's dead. But he's definitely looking back at the good times he had with Sin. And then he talks with Marco asks Philip what he saw. Like, he wants to make sure that Naomi's dead. So he asks Philip, "What did you see?" And he's like, "She jumped out without a vac suit. Sin chased her, tried to stop her, but she jumped out anyway, even though it would kill Sin as well." And Philip is convinced that Naomi is dead, and he relays that to Marco. So they're both under the impression that Naomi is dead.
What's up, everybody? Tom here from the future. Oh, well, the future of the time of the recording of the video. Technically, I'm in your past, and I'm in my present. So don't worry about the chronology of this. I just wanted to point out really quickly, before I go into Naomi's story in this episode, I realize I never really fully explained like what the conundrum is here and like what's going on with Naomi, which I mean, they explain it, but I could easily see somebody not really knowing, understanding what's going on here. I mean, it was confusing for me, and I'm a pretentious book reader. So the thing with the books is that it kind of explains more what the thought process is. But basically, what you have to understand is that since these Free Navy folks, this Marco crew, is going to destroy the Chetsmoka, they already scavenged the ship for anything that could possibly be useful. I mean, that's kind of the MO of like Belter OPA radicals. These are Free Navy, but it's the same idea, which is like kind of get everything useful from something and then destroy it or use it for your own. But in this case, they're already planning on destroying the ship because the ship is bait to lure Holden and the Rocinante to, where it will then blow up. Because remember, this ship Naomi bought, and so Marco knows that when Holden sees the Chetsmoka, which is that ship, in his radar scans or whatever, he's going to see the Chetsmoka and think Naomi, and think, now I got to go there. Which goes to the second part of Marco's plan here, which is that he has this recording going, which is a fake recording of Naomi, basically calling to Jim Holden for help. And it's just constantly broadcasting that out. So just hoping that eventually, the Rocinante will get a hold of that message and then go and try to rescue Naomi from there, where they think Naomi is. And then by the time the Rocinante gets there, a proximity bomb blows up the fusion reactor in the Chetsmoka and kills everybody, destroying the Rocinante. Like, that's the whole plan. But you have to realize, Marco, they didn't expect Naomi to actually be on the ship. Right? They made this fake message, well, because A, Naomi would have never recorded it for them, but B, they weren't going to even put Naomi on the ship at all. They were going to keep her on the Pella, like, as their slave, pretty much. Or I guess they said they were going to release her after the ship was already destroyed, but there was never a plan to have Naomi on the ship. And Marco's crew all think that she's dead because they saw her jump into the vacuum of space without a suit. So that's the whole plan, is to use the Chetsmoka and this message as bait to drag the Rocinante in and Jim Holden, and then blow it up. Which, I mean, it's kind of an obvious plan, and you have to expect Holden to not fall for it, or anybody to fall for it, really. Like, obviously everybody's going to be on high guard, but the thing is, and they explain this more in the books, and you see it happen in real time in the show, but in the books they deliberately come out and say the way Marco operates is that he layers plans within each other. So, like, if one plan doesn't work, well, like, that's okay because you already have this more, easier plan that will still end up working, right? So even if you fail on trying to accomplish your riskier, more difficult missions, like, you're always going to have your easier, more basic missions to fall back on. But if you do happen to succeed in one of these long shot things, well, then it's like, whoa, you're a genius. Like, you actually were able to think that far ahead. But in reality, it's like, if it fails, it fails, and you're kind of where you were before, but, there's something else, like a smaller thing that you can hang your hat on. And so he layers plans within each other. And this whole thing of using the Chetsmoka to lure the Rocinante, like, yeah, if it happens, it'd be great. But if it doesn't happen, well, Marco will either pretend that he never even tried, or just pawn the blame off on somebody else, like Philip, which is also how he operates. When something good happens, Marco gets all the credit for it. Marco was the genius that enacted the plan. But if something doesn't work, it either, gets swept under the rug, or, it's somebody else's fuck up. But really, they're all working together on these things. And he uses this as part of his manipulation tactics, right? Like, you don't want to be the one who gets blamed for a failure, you know? And so he's manipulating people with these kinds of things. So yeah, Naomi's just trying to find a way to basically hack and change the message, so that whoever reads it, will know that trying to rescue Naomi spells certain doom. Yeah, but it does look like later on in the episode, that Alex and Bobby and the Screamin' Firehawk, aka the Razorback, get the message, and they're actually planning on going to the fucking Chesmoka, and they're probably going to get blowed up. But tune in next week to find out. Anyway, I think that's good for this little aside. Let's go back to your present, shall we?
She's on the Chesmoka, and she sees that it's covered in bombs. So I think first she's like, let me try to disarm the bombs. Then she hears this message that's like, "Hi, this is Naomi Nagata. Please tell Alex Holden to come help me," pretty much. Retransmit. And she didn't actually say that. It's a fake recording created by Marco. So, and the idea is that it send out this fake message and then lure Holden, who's in the Rocinante, to the Chesmoka, which is going to set off a proximity bomb, which is going to blow up the Chesmoka's fusion drive and kill everybody. So there's that. So she's trying to override that message because she doesn't want anybody to get that message and say, "Oh, I need to go to the Chesmoka to help because it's a trap." So she's trying to send out her own message. But the thing that I don't understand is that when she ultimately is able to send out her own message, she's just repeating the same thing that's in the original message. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. So then we cut back to Holden and Bull and the reporter girl, Monica Stewart. And they're talking about like what their next move should be, and Bull particularly is very against the idea of doing anything risky with regards to saving Naomi that could possibly like make them lose the ship or lose their whole crew. Bull understands you're at war and like you need to be like make cold calculating decisions, but Holden doesn't really want to hear any of that. So that happens. It's just kind of showing like the power struggles. This whole episode is kind of about power struggles if you think about it. It's about people trying to influence each other, people trying to get their way and maybe sway others to their side. There's a lot of that happening here. That happens in this scene on the Rocinante with Bull and Holden. It happens in the Belt with Drummer's crew. Where they are now basically scavenging or salvaging from areas that have been destroyed by the Free Navy, and basically collecting those spoils to bring back to Marco. And here, there's another kind of like power struggle, kind of a debate, trying to win favor with others. Between Drummer and, I don't remember his name, but like the tall fucking belter in their polyamorous bunch. The tallest one. So he's saying like, look, we're doing the same thing we always do. And also Pa gets some lines in this, which is funny because it's like, oh yeah, like we completely removed Pa and switched her out with Kamina. But like, it's okay, Pa's still on the crew, but everything that she does in the book is done by Drummer, which is fine. It's just like, I don't know. Pa from the book, now she's here, like, is that cool? Like, is that good for the fans that read the books? Or is it just completely unnecessary? I mean, I guess as long as it doesn't really affect the story that they're trying to tell in the show, then I don't really mind that, but I mean, you just gotta see. But Drummer is very against what they're doing. Like, Drummer hates helping Marco. Marco killed Ashford. Marco killed Fred Johnson, who were her close friends. And Marco destroyed Naomi's life, and she's friends with Naomi, so she really hates the fact that they're helping Marco. She's obviously against the fact that Marco destroyed billions of lives on Earth. And so then we go to the other ship in the Kamina's crew, and it's piloted by the one lady, I forget her name, or it's not really piloted by her, but she's now on the ship, Marco's girl. So they traded one of their people for her to, like, quote, inspire unity. But really, she's just a spy for Marco, and she reports what they're doing and tells them what Marco wants them to do. So the other girl, drummer's girlfriend, is like the captain of the ship, but ultimately she has to take orders from this girl who's getting orders from Marco. So that's happening. And Marco's girl informs drummer's girl that Naomi is dead because she jumped into space. And for some reason, so drummer's girl doesn't really trust this because, like, she doesn't really trust anything Marco says. And she also doesn't probably believe that Naomi would commit suicide. Which, I mean, what Naomi did is definitely suicidal. Don't kid yourself about that. But at the same time, it wasn't suicidal. And also, I think that Naomi was kind of put in a situation where the only way out was to basically risk her life on something that is incredibly risky. And ultimately, the gamble paid off. But losing her life at that point wouldn't have been so much of a big deal because she didn't want to be used as bait to kill her family. So it was kind of like, if I die, it's not the end of the world because at least I'm going out in a way where I'm helping save my friends. So then the next scene we go to is the guy who is now the Secretary General of the UN has assigned Avasarala and what's-his-face to help just advise him. So he also he announces that he's hired Avasarala and Avasarala's a dude friend to advise him, and also he just kind of makes a pretty strong speech where he is like advocating for, like, going to war against Marco and taking prisoners and making sure that everybody that was involved in the attack has to account for it. And it's a good speech, and it's generally well received. And Avasarala comments afterwards that even if they don't believe everything he said, he was still the leader they needed at that moment. And so that's the important thing, is that he just basically gave a strong speech and is giving these people a pass to follow him and have a leader, because up until this point, nobody knew who the leader was of Earth, and that was destabilizing. So he was basically here to just offer some stability to Earth. Overall, it's just, I mean, I guess it is what it is. It's not what it's not. And I mean, I think on one hand they're laying the groundwork for, like, he's going to just be he's going to be deferring to Avasarala and Avasarala's buddy. But as you actually see in the next scene with them, when they're in the Situation Room, Avasarala and Avasarala's buddy disagree on whether or not they should be attacking Palace Station and basically destroying it, because Avasarala's buddy is saying, look, they hit us at our home, we need to respond in kind, so they know that they can't do that. But Avasarala makes the good point that if you destroy Palace, you're destroying, thousands of innocent Belters that don't even support the Free Navy. And then what you're doing is sending a message to all Belters that you really are just out there to declare war against the whole Belt. And just further radicalize future insurgents. So he basically tables that and just says, okay, just work on relief and we'll figure out what to do later. which is interesting because he doesn't know what to do. So then you go back to Amos and Clarissa, who are now in Baltimore, and they're going to meet with Eric, try to get Eric on board with going with them. And on the way up, Amos recognizes a bottle of tequila. And he's like, "Oh, tequila, I want some of that." But then this guy behind him pushes him. And he's like, "Hey, this isn't about tequila. This is, this is important." Amos, Clarissa, and Eric have a little convo where basically Amos and Clarissa convince Eric to help them. It's from the book. Not much to say here. I'm going to skip to the next scene a little bit. Clarissa gives a monologue about something that happened to her in prison, and it was very touching. And I got this feeling that Clarissa was kind of talking to Eric, with kind of like when two people from like AA are like talking to each other, and like they both know about like the 12-step program and like have been working on it, and they have this kind of unspoken thing. That's kind of the vibe I got when Clarissa was telling Eric about going to jail. So he doesn't want to leave because he's like, "Hey, I'm the king of Baltimore." But it's like, "Hey, dude, there is no more Baltimore. Like, you need to get off this rock, and so do we, and we could all do it together." And of course, he doesn't kill Amos for coming back because, like, asteroids hit Earth, everything is fucking crazy. He probably thinks that Amos might be able to help him in some way, and it turns out he can, just not in the way he expected it to be, because Amos is going to help him get off of Earth. Eric has never been off of Earth. He's going to have to learn how to float around in zero gravity and sub 1G gravity. But I mean, hey, it's better than being on Earth. Am I right?
Hey everybody, I'm back here from your me's future self, to just kind of add a little bit more color to my discussion about the meetup between Eric, Amos, and Clarissa. And I guess what I wanted to say is, well, first of all, Eric is reluctant to leave Earth, okay? Because if you think about it, he built up this entire life going from, like, crawling around in garbage pretty much to, like, being the number one fucking gangster in Baltimore that, like, has a penthouse apartment atop a fortress, in which there are motorcycles parked inside the apartment. And he is kind of the king of his domain on Earth. And he's reluctant to leave because he doesn't want to leave all of that power that he has on Earth and then go into space and, be nobody, basically. Just be a little shitter that doesn't even, like, know how to float around and shit. So that's why he wants to stay. Like, it's understandable, this like, I can see him having, like, almost being gravitationally attracted to Earth, if that makes any sense. So Clarissa then tells this anecdote about somebody that she knew in prison who killed her 5 children, right? That's why she's in jail. But the lady's crazy. She believes that her children are still alive, and therefore believes that she's wrongfully imprisoned. The point is, she was dwelling on a past that is a fantasy. Her children do not exist. And it becomes a point where you have to just move on, okay? And that's what Eric has to do here, because Earth is donezo, okay? Baltimore is donezo. It's going into fucking chaos and fucking just death because a fucking meteor hit in fucking Pennsylvania and fucked everything up. So You know, you can go into the belt, try to create a life there, or just live on Earth, be a shitter, and, you know, probably, you know, die to fucking the plague or some shit, because who knows what kind of craziness is going to happen with these meteors. And ultimately, they kind of use that to convince him to come. So that's just a little bit of color I wanted to add onto that one little bit there.
It's back to the same old thing with this like war situation room. You know, there's these war hawks that just want to go to war no matter what the cost, no matter what the excess casualties are, no matter what blowback that could possibly inspire. Like their number, like I mean, it's like they don't even consider the existence of blowback, which is a thing. Like if you are more heavy-handed against an insurgent population, then you create more insurgents than you kill because of the resentment and hatred that comes from engaging in that kind of behavior, like murdering people. All right, so Naomi back on the ship. You know, I basically talked about this. Like she's trying to survive. She's trying to basically MacGyver a solution to change the code. But I mean, as far as doing that, like it's cool watching her work. It's just I think at times a little bit hard hard to know what she's doing. Like it's hard to know what she's actually trying to do. As far as like they do a good job at visual storytelling and kind of showing her like building a pulley, you know, to lift the grate so she can get the thing that she can't pick up because her hands are fucked up from jumping into space. Like it's cool. Like it is good cinema now that I think about it. Like it's visual storytelling. It's showing what's happening, and it's making you call back to things that happened in the past. Like when her hands are fucked up, like that's always a reminder. Oh, she's very sick. She's fucked up from jumping into space, which was like such a cool scene. Every time you think back on her jumping into space, like all those memories, or the whole scene flashes before your eyes, you know, in your brain. And so when you see her struggle to lift the grate up, you're not just seeing her struggle to lift the grate up, you're seeing her entire journey. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, more debate among drummer's ship is a thing that occurs. I mean, they have this scene where the guy spills water and it goes into globules everywhere. And then they all start sucking up the water bubbles, like... right? Because they're in 0G, which is pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. It was a fun scene. And it was a brief bit of levity, which is breaking drummer's otherwise uncontrollable rage and just struggle doing basically the opposite of what she wants to be doing, helping her enemy just because like her friends seem to think it's either the right thing to do or their only choice. And that's a very strong struggle for Naomi, and not Naomi, drummer. Like you'd think she would almost rather die than have to do it, but like, you know, she's not helping anything if she dies. This operation will continue on. So she basically drinks herself into oblivion, and this scene where they're sucking in the bubbles is really the only moment of levity for these people. You know, there's divisions being created among them about, are we doing the right thing? Do we care? Like, we're pirates. Marco killed billions of people, though, and they're helping him. And I think that plus Marco killed Fred Johnson, Marco killed Ashford. Drummer just can't stomach it. Bobby and Alex in the Razorback, aka Screamin' Firehawk, is where our next scene takes place, and they get the fake message from Naomi here. Send it to Holden. which is basically exactly how the trap is supposed to work. If Naomi can't defuse the bomb, then they're gonna get exploded when they go there. They inform Holden about it as well. So yeah, that's pretty crazy, huh? Yeah, so it's kind of a setup episode. There's not that much happening. We're kind of getting people from A to B to where they need to be for the final thing that's gonna happen. I was pooping on it earlier, but the scene with Naomi is actually probably the best part of the whole episode. Now that I think about it, by far, like seeing her kind of. Because the thing is, right, it seems like a hopeless situation, but this is Naomi, right? Like, Naomi is a master engineer, coder, just, like, knows everything about spaceships, right? And it's fun to see her try to, just come up with whatever solution might have a chance of working in this dark hour of hers. And really just thriving, doing the one thing that is like her thing that she's like the best at, which is basically making ships do exactly what they want them to do. Because Naomi's like a genius, right? She is a genius. In addition to learning how to work on ships all on her own, she also, don't forget, has like a doctorate in some kind of nuclear fusion or quantum science. I forget exactly what it is, or theoretical physics maybe. She has a doctorate in that, so she's very, very smart. And it's like, this ship is not going to defeat her, even though she's locked out of the controls. Like, that she's going to be able to figure something out, and it's kind of fun being able to see her work her way through that. Now that I think about it. And like I said, there's enough visual storytelling. You're able to understand at a surface level what's happening, even if you don't know the technical details of like, why does she need to touch this wire with metal? Why does she need to pull this wire out? You understand the fact that she only has the amount of air that's trapped in that suit, and so she needs to keep going back and forth every time she starts to run out of air. And every time she does that, it gets more and more difficult. And so like, you can see that. And, like, you get that out of it. It's just, I like it better in the books where you get to hear her thought process of, like, exactly what she was trying to do. It made more sense in the books. But, like I said, it's kind of fun just getting to see her, like, do her thing. Okay, so she keeps going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Eventually, she's able to touch the wire and repeat... the message and broadcast that out, her repeating it. I don't really understand the point of that, but hey, it's what happened. So Kamina and her girlfriend lady have a debate after the Marcos lady comes in and basically says, you do what Marco's gonna do, kind of laying her balls on the table a little bit there. And Kamina takes it, and she doesn't like that she has to take it. But she doesn't have a choice because of the superiority of Marco's fleet and the fact that this is the decision that her crew has made together. But she strongly disagrees with it, and it's just a real struggle for her. Having to balance the two sides of her personality, not even the two sides of her personality, but trying to balance doing what's easy, maybe doing what's smart, and showing some restraint, and oh no, the Watchmen, doing what she thinks is right, but may just get her and all of her friends killed. But obviously she has a strong desire to do the right thing, regardless of the consequences. But it's just not an option for her. She has to be wrong. And I really think what they're doing here is just establishing, even if she's doing this thing where she's working for Marco's fleet, the whole time, like, she's against it. The first chance she has to stop doing it, she will. And I think that's good because if you read the books, Well, I mean, I guess. I mean. Okay, I'm going into book spoilers for a sec. If you want to hear book spoilers through the fifth book, you can keep listening. If not, nothing else really happens in this episode. So this might be a good time for you to leave. I'm going to go into book spoilers now for a minute. So in the book, there's a character named Michio Pa who is doing what Drummer is doing in the show. Okay? Now, it just so happens Michio Pa is another member on Drummer's crew in the show, but in the book, there's no Drummer here. Drummer's on Tycho, and so Drummer's not even in the polyamorous thing in the books, and Michio is doing what Drummer's doing. And in the books, Drummer thinks that she's doing the right thing because she actually wants to liberate the belt. Like, she's kind of drunk the Kool-Aid a little bit. Eventually, she ends up defecting from Marco when she realizes that Marco's plan to feed the belt is not going to work. It's insufficient. That, actually, Belters will starve within, 2 or 5 years or something. Which is, a good 5 to 8 years before they're going to be self-sufficient with growing food on Ganymede, without having the food coming from Earth. So when she realizes this, hey, it can be you can want to liberate the belt as much as you can. If the whole belt is going to starve to death because of doing that, then it kind of defeats the point. So that issue alone is what kind of gets Michio Pa to switch sides in the books. She was always a little bit skeptical of Marco about the feeding thing, but she actually believed in the cause, and then eventually she found out that feeding the belt was actually impossible. At that point, she had to switch sides, and she basically just defects with her crew. And her crew ends up actually following her, but I think they all agree that Beltalowda need to eat. But that was the lone issue in the books. When Drummer ultimately defects from Marco in the show, I think they're trying to make it more of an internal decision as opposed to she actually agrees with Marco, but just this one issue changes her mind. I think they want Drummer to be more firmly on the good side than Pa was, who Pa was maybe a little bit more self-interested. They want Drummer to be more moralistic, more that she always has to do the right thing. And so they set it up from the beginning that she's just absolutely in distress from having to do the thing that she believes is wrong. Just being forced into it. So, it is what it is, and it is not what it is not. If you like this video, click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and also hit me up with a message if you need a photographer to shoot an event or take your portrait or do real estate photography as well, so you can DM me for that. Okay, thanks everybody, have a great night.
Hey guys, what's back? It's audio version of me again, and I just wanted to talk about something from the books. It's not really a spoiler, it's just some of this internal a monologue that you get. Well, this wasn't an internal monologue, but it's just a little bit more color you get into the motivations of people, how they operate, and it's about this idea of insurgencies. And it might even be from book 6, but it's really not a spoiler because it was just a speech Marco gave to people in his Free Navy, where he was explaining that the Afghans are the spiritual ancestors of the belt. And he's explaining, okay, so maybe this is actually a little bit of a spoiler. Okay, so fuck it, I'll put this in the spoiler section. Marco was explaining that, and this is the spoiler section, so I can go into detail. So he assembles like a sort of like a 5-headed prong of OPA and belt leaders to kind of be his like lieutenants or whatever in this what becomes like a sort of tactical war for control of the belt. And he wants to have a good kind of swath of OPA factions, leaders of factions, in his ranks, to kind of win over the belt and project power through the belt and actually defend the ring space, which you later find out this whole thing is about controlling the rings. Okay, whoever controls the rings controls not just the system, but all the systems and all of the ring gates. So it's really about control of the rings. And the thing is, in the books, they explain. This is all book 6 stuff. So why am I getting into this? I don't need to get into that part for this. But the thing is, he considers the Afghans the spiritual successors of the belt, because he sees the Afghans as an occupied, oppressed group, okay, who managed to survive by using guerrilla warfare, okay, doing, judicious, well thought out attacks, and then basically retreating and just dissipating into the desert or just into the population, never to be found again. Right? Like, it's not about, oh, I'm going to war and I'm trying to kill you. It's about you do what you can when you can, and then you slip off the radar. And that's exactly what Marco is planning to do in his war with the inner planets, which is to just kind of do these attacks and then just turn their core off, go off into space, outside of the ecliptic plane, which is when you're orbiting the sun but not in the same plane as all the other planets, like you're going at a different angle. And they explain that, like, leaving the ecliptic plane, it's kind of like mysterious. Like, everybody knows there's nothing there, but it's still kind of like you're leaving the safety of the ecliptic plane. Like, you're going into like just like an even greater vastness than the vastness of the ecliptic plane of the solar system. And that's how he saw his movement. That's how he was kind of getting the inspiration for his tactics, was from the Afghans. And it's just crazy to think about that now, like the guerrilla warfare of the Afghans. I mean, and it's, if you're looking at it, it's like you got all the different factions. You got the Taliban, you got Al Qaeda, fucking Sunnis and Shiites, fucking crazy shit. But yeah, I mean, and then the thing is, you can see the insurgency element of it. Like, the correct answer is never to just kill more insurgents, because you're just going to create more insurgents from killing the original ones, because they're going to, you're killing these people's friends and families. Like, you're not going to create allies like that. You're going to create lifetime enemies. And, I mean, think about all the relationships one person you kill has. And that's this exact same thing with Palace Station. Like, Avasarala is 100% right. You can't just blow up Palace Station and expect that to, have any sort of moral standing, okay, in the universe. Or B, even be strategically advantageous, because if all you're doing is alienating the belt, you're going to have no way of accessing the belt, which you need to if you're going to have any chance. So, I don't know. These Warhawks, man, I don't like them. They're not good. They're not good people. Anyway, that's my little thing about the Afghans. Marco's fucking little history lesson that he gave to his group in the 6th book, which, you know, we'll probably see something similar to that happen in the 6th season. They don't always go into quite as much detail about the motivations and the internal monologues of the characters as you get in the books. Well, because there are no internal monologues. Like the show doesn't have narration, and if they did, it would completely destroy it. You know, that's actually something else I wanted to touch on briefly. I think it's interesting seeing this story approached from the literary side, okay, the book, the prose, if you will, and B, the TV show, the cinema, okay, the serialized film, if you will, and seeing how they tell basically the same story, but using the two mediums to do their own respective strengths, okay, and emphasize those aspects of the story. So in the books, what you get is you get a lot of internal monologues, what people are thinking about when they're doing something. And like that is like how they kind of flesh out and color the universe in the books, is like, you know, when Amos walks into a room, you don't just see him walk into a room and look around. Amos walks into a room and you hear him thinking, okay, that's the first guy I'm going to take out if shit goes sour. I'm going to use his body as a meat shield to block the other guy from shooting me while I grab his gun and then shoot that guy. You know, in the books, when Amos walks into a room, you hear him start just automatically analyzing everything of the room for what will happen if a fight happens, how he will go about the fight. You get a similar thing with Bobby. And, you know, you see it happen in the show, but in the show you're not hearing their thoughts, you're just kind of seeing it happen. And, well, anyway, I think the perfect example of this is the scene where Naomi is trying to, you know, stop the trap from occurring that Marco set with the Chet Smoker. So in the books, you really, like, they explain the details of what she's trying to do and how it's going to work. So they explain how the voice, you know, is going to lure the Rocinante in. And, I mean, that's obvious. What I'm saying is they explain, like, the details from an electric and, like, mechanic standpoint of what Naomi is trying to do. And, like, you also obviously get, like, Naomi thinking about how much it sucks having just been subjected to space, and, like, her struggle as well. And, like, that's all done, it's mainly done through the internal monologue. And then, like, when she actually does something, well, great, she just did the thing, you know, that she's been thinking about, that's a piece in a puzzle. And they're able to kind of put the pieces together like that. Where in the show, like, you don't really always, or at least I didn't understand the details of the mechanics of what she's trying to do. But I understand from a visual kind of storytelling, montage perspective of what she's going through, and there's enough there where it's like, I know she's trying to change the message to stop the trap, that I can trust that she knows what she's doing, and I'm along for the ride, you know? And just enjoy the visual storytelling. And yeah, it's very interesting to compare and contrast the two. They really do both. You know, they draw from their respective mediums the best ways that are specific to those mediums to portray the story. You know, like the book is very good at like describing complex things and complex thoughts. And the show is kind of better at just providing the emotions and the stakes, you know, and what's going on from a visual storytelling perspective. And I think that's really, really something. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on that, as far as that goes, and not an inch further.